Great Zimbabwe has been the subject of interest and controversy. The ancient Shona city, from whose existence the nation of Zimbabwe draws its name and identity, is the basis from which the nation also draws its inspiration for almost all the national symbols, from our flags, coat of arms, passport, and even our money. The name Zimbabwe is derived from the Shona term Madzimbabwe or Zimbadzamabwe, meaning houses of stone. If you like the work that I do on this channel, please consider partnering with me on Patreon. From as little as $3, you can help me improve the quality and consistency of videos on this channel. On that note, help me thank my biggest Patreon, Tom Bodkin. Thank you so much for the love, really appreciate it. These ancient city structures are believed to have been built between 1000 CE to 1100 CE, but the Shona people are believed to have settled in that area as early as 400 CE. Drawn by the rich fertile soils for farming and herding, mineral deposits including gold, iron, copper, for crafting and trading. Through trading and other economic activities, the Shona society transformed from a single farming community into a more advanced society with different classes of people, from the elite leaders who are likely to have been resident in the Great Enclosure, and the peasants who lived in the surrounding structures. Their roles included farming, herding cattle, and cooking for the elites. The Great Enclosure was not only home for the elites, but it also housed a sacred shrine. This is where the Zimbabwe beds were discovered. More on that later. Archaeological artifacts discovered at the Great Zimbabwe ruins include pottery, elaborately worked ivory, iron, copper wire, iron hose, bronze spearheads, copper, ingots and crucibles, gold beads, bracelets, pendants, sheets, coins from Kilwa in Tanzania, and porcelain from as far as China. The earliest known written mention of the Great Zimbabwe ruins was in 1531 by Vicente Pegado, captain of the Portuguese garrison of Sofala on the east coast of modern-day Mozambique, who recorded it as Zimbabwe. The Great Zimbabwe is believed to have been abandoned around 1450 CE after exhaustion of gold mines and declining trade, as well as negative effects on farming caused by climatic change and overpopulation. It is believed that between 10,000 to 18,000 people called the Great Zimbabwe area home. Nyatsimba Mtota was sent from Great Zimbabwe to discover new sources of salt up north, only for him to conquer the Shona tribes living there, leading to the expansion of the Great Zimbabwe culture and the rise of the Mutapa State, and inversely, the decline of the Great Zimbabwe. If that's a video that you want me to work on, leave a comment down below. Now, the Great Zimbabwe story is not complete without talking about the European visitors. The first recorded European to set his eyes on the Great Zimbabwe was Portuguese traveler Antonio Fernandes in 1513 to around 1515. His visit was likely to have been inspired by the explorer Diogo de Alcacova's letter to the King of Portugal, where he describes the Great Zimbabwe structures as being part of a larger kingdom of Ukalanga, presumably the Karanga, a dialect of the Shona people spoken mainly in Masvingo and Midlands provinces of Zimbabwe. The next group of Europeans to visit the Great Zimbabwe came in the 19th century, but of note is Willie Posset, which visited the ruins after hearing about them from European Karl Marx. But unlike other visitors before him, Posselt climbed to the highest point of the ruins, despite protests from the Shona people living in the area. As the site was a very sacred shrine, he resorted to bribing them. Posselt went on to pillage the site. He selected the best specimen of soapstone birds. He resorted to hacking off the pedestal from one of the birds, as it was too heavy for him to carry. He ended up hiding the pedestal, with hopes of returning and digging it up on subsequent visits. Posselt eventually sold his bird to Cecil John Rhodes. Rhodes was so intrigued by the birds that he mounted the bird in his library in Cape Town. According to historians, he was so obsessed that he decorated his house's stairway with wooden replicas. Rhodes also had stone replicas made, 3 times the size of the original, to decorate the gates of his house in England near Cambridge. A year later, Rhodes would fund the Pioneer Column to colonize Zimbabwe. You can watch my video on the history of Harare. I'll leave a card above. The colonizers, perhaps for propaganda's sake, did not want to attribute the Great Zimbabwe ruins to the right owners. They believed that Africans did not have the capacity to build such a city on their own. Rather, Bent attributed the ancient city to the Phoenicians. It is worth noting that Bent himself was not a trained archaeologist. His approach to studying the ruins was more like pillaging. Actually, countless Europeans swamped the Great Zimbabwe site in search of gold and other artifacts, some of which were sent to museums across Europe, America, and South Africa. Theodore Bent's assertions that the Great Zimbabwe had been built by the Phoenicians were refuted by British archaeologist David Randall McIver, who concluded that the ruins were medieval and built by one or more of the local African Bantu peoples in 1905. His findings were confirmed by another British archaeologist, Gertrude Catton Thompson, in 1929, and this remains the consensus today. Bent recorded that there were 8 birds, 6 large and 2 small, and that there had probably originally been more, as there were several additional stone pedestals of which the tops had been broken off. The Great Zimbabwe was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1986 and remains protected by the National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe organization. In 1980, South Africa returned some of the soapstone birds that had been looted. In 2003, Germany handed the bottom part of a soapstone carving of the mythical Zimbabwe bird to the late former president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, in a ceremony at the State House. That, in a nutshell, is the history of the Great Zimbabwe. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. See you in the next video.